Growing questions this hour about what exactly happened to the body of Osama bin Laden in the hours after he was killed. Our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is joining us now with that part of the story. Barbara, how do we know for sure that it was indeed bin Laden who was shot?
Okay, well, here's how it goes. U.S. officials are saying that when the Navy SEALs got into that room and killed bin Laden, first thing is facial recognition. There's no evidence that he altered his appearance. They knew right away, this is a man that is recognizable to the world, tall, thin, beard. Everybody knows his face. That was the first thing. There are also photos of him. They did some biometric matching, looking at the pattern of the nose, the ears, the eyes, again, the beard. I've talked to two officials who have seen a photograph taken of bin Laden after he was killed. They say he is recognizable. If President Obama decides to release that photo to the world, we are told you will recognize, you will know that it is Osama bin Laden. They also did DNA matching, just to be sure.
What did the U.S. military, Barbara, do with his body after killing him?
Well, what they didn't want to do is bury him somewhere where his body could become a shrine, if you will, for militants, where al-Qaeda would gather and use it as a propaganda or recruiting tool. They put him on an aircraft and they flew him out to the Carl Vinson, an aircraft carrier that was stationed out in the North Arabian Sea off the coast of Pakistan. And Wolf, they buried him at sea. There were Islamic prayers said, we are told. They wrapped him in a white cloth in a weighted bag, and basically, to be blunt, they tossed him overboard. And that's how they buried Osama bin Laden.
Behind the scenes, Barbara, what's still worrying the U.S. military and intelligence community?
You know, Wolf, I think at the end of the day, after all this conversation around the world, U.S. officials are still quite concerned about another threat emerging, about another attack, and they are watching very carefully one fact. Ayman al-Zawahiri, Osama bin Laden's #2, who was seen with him in videos over the years, made a number of his own videos, is still out there. No one knows where he is. And in recent years, it is a fact that the U.S. believed bin Laden was becoming more of a symbolic figurehead. It was this man, Ayman al-Zawahiri, who basically, over the years, continued to exert operational control over al-Qaeda, diminished as it was. This is the man they want to now get. This is now the powerhouse, if you will, left behind after Osama bin Laden's death, Wolf.
Yeah, I think he's now the most wanted man in the world. Barbara, thanks very much. U.S. intelligence apparently would have never found the mansion where bin Laden was hiding if they hadn't honed in on one of his trusted couriers. It's just one of the main pieces of this remarkable puzzle that led to bin Laden's death. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh is in Islamabad, Pakistan, not that far from where bin Laden was hiding out. What do we know about this part of the story, Nick?
Absolutely. From early this morning, Pakistani officials were trying to push their involvement out on this, really suggesting they had operatives on the ground. But by the afternoon, it was clear that they hadn't done. One thing they were saying, though, was that they had been regularly supplying electronic transfer information, phone records, etc., to the Americans. Now, one thing a senior Pakistani intelligence official said to me here was that they had let part of this information slip off their radar, but the Americans had focused in on that same information and used it to find the compound. It appears to be phone taps, phone information relating to one of the couriers who seems to have gone back and forth from the compound, and that appears to have been the main method in which the compound was originally located. This sort of focus, I think, began back in September last year, they were saying, Wolf.
Yeah, I think they've been looking for this courier for some time. Do we know for sure that this courier, who was the tip that led the U.S. intelligence community to this mansion outside of Islamabad, do we know if this courier was one of these so-called two couriers who was killed in the operation?
I do not know that for sure, to be honest. The Pakistani intelligence official I was speaking to wouldn't go into details about the courier itself, but I think they were more just trying to suggest here that there was a key Pakistani role in the operation. Islamabad very keen to be sure that American audiences hear that they had a key role in finding bin Laden, that they weren't colluding to try and brush away suggestions that somehow Pakistani intelligence officials must have known that he was there had he been there for months in this large garrison town not too far away from the capital.
We're going to probably hear much of that line from Hussein Haqqani, the Pakistani ambassador to the United States. Nick, he's going to be here in the Situation Room. But the Pakistani officials in Islamabad, where you are, they know what U.S. officials are saying, that the U.S. shared no information in advance with the Pakistani government and indeed did not even consult or inform the Pakistani government of what was going on till all those U.S. helicopters and troops and bin Laden's body were out of their country. They know that, which suggests that the U.S. simply did not trust Pakistan.
Absolutely. I mean, the same senior Pakistani intelligence official was saying simply the helicopters arrived over the compound undetected. But Pakistan did not know they were coming and did not know they were there until they were already on the job, on the operation. Obviously, a 40-minute firefight, 40-minute operation did cause a Pakistani response, and that's obviously why the Americans left the country very quickly and didn't inform officially the Pakistani government of what they'd done until they were well out of Pakistani airspace. But trust, absolutely the key issue here. It would frankly have been an enormous surprise if the Americans decided they could trust the Pakistanis with a piece of information as vital as this, going after their most wanted individual here, bin Laden. Really, the last few months seeing an absolute deterioration in Pakistani-American relations. The drone strikes causing Pakistani officials to demand that America curtail its attacks on the tribal areas using Predator drones, and also the incident of Raymond Davis, a CIA contractor who shot 2 men dead in Lahore, really fueling anti-American sentiment in the Pakistani public here, and also fueling those conspiracy theories that there are a large number of covert CIA operatives in the country, frankly borne up perhaps by today's operation. Wolf.
Nick Payton-Walsh in Islamabad for us. Thank you, Nick. Bin Laden is dead. Here's the question, though. Is the United States safer from a terrorist attack right now, or is the U.S. even more at risk? We'll talk about the fear that al-Qaeda followers will now want revenge. And was bin Laden able to hide out in Pakistan with the help of local government figures? Top U.S. officials say they aren't ruling it out. Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Hussein Haqqani, he'll be here live in the Situation Room. We'll press him for answers.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, brought to you by Zales, the Diamond Store.
Mom. We know diamonds. Together, we'll make this Mother's Day one she'll never forget. That's why only Zales is the Diamond Store.
If you've been to the hospital with heart-related chest pain or a heart attack, known as ACS, you may not want to face the fact that you're at greater risk of a heart attack or stroke. Plavix helps protect people with ACS against heart attack or stroke. People like you. It's one of the most researched prescription medicines. Adding Plavix to your other heart medicines goes beyond what they do alone by helping to keep blood platelets from sticking and forming dangerous clots. Plavix, protection against heart attack or stroke in people with ACS.
Plavix is not for everyone. Certain genetic factors in some medicines, such as Prilosec, reduce the effect of Plavix, leaving you at greater risk for heart attack and stroke. Your doctor may use genetic tests to determine treatment. Don't stop taking Plavix without talking to your doctor, as your risk of heart attack or stroke may increase. People with stomach ulcers or conditions that cause bleeding should not use Plavix. Taking Plavix alone or with some other medicines, including aspirin, may increase bleeding risk, which can potentially be life-threatening. So tell your doctor when planning surgery. Tell your doctor all medicines you take, including aspirin, especially if you've had a stroke. If fever, unexplained weakness, or confusion develops, tell your doctor promptly. These may be signs of TTP, a rare but potentially life-threatening condition reported sometimes less than 2 weeks after starting Plavix.
You love money. Well, you know I love it too. You love money. Well, you know I love it too. I work so hard on my job, and then I bring it home to you. I like money in my pocket.
If you're looking at luxury hybrids, you need to know that only one gets an EPA estimated 41 miles per gallon in the city. In other words, all things being equal, they're not. The 2011 Lincoln MKZ hybrid. It's not just luxury. It's It's smarter than that.
A line is a powerful thing. It connects the global economy to your living room. Cleaner air to stronger markets. Factory floors to less crowded roads. Today's progress to tomorrow's promise. Norfolk Southern. One line, infinite possibilities.
It's the new special issue of our sister publication, Time Magazine. Take a look. There you see Bin Laden. Enough said with the X. It's very, very similar to a May 2nd, 1945 issue of Time Magazine. There you see Hitler. Similar treatment that Time Magazine gave Hitler then, Bin Laden now. Bin Laden's death is drawing a somber crowd in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, somewhat different from the ones we're seeing in New York, as well as here in Washington. Americans there are reflecting. They are celebrating the heroes of Flight 93. Here's CNN's Jim Acosta.
In that tiny Pennsylvania field where a jumbo jet crashed into the hearts of a nation, Americans remembered and prayed. Some brought flowers and left messages.
Score one for the good guys.
Shanksville resident Clay Mankenmeyer hung a headline.
In response to Todd Beamer's request, when he said, let's roll, we're still rolling, and we haven't forgot.
Still rolling are the memories of the decision made by Todd Beamer and the rest of Flight 93's passengers and crew that forced the hijacked plane into the ground here before it hit the nation's capital.
Those brave people, I can't imagine what that must have been like, being in the back of that plane, and the fact that they knew what they had to do.
On the 10th anniversary of 9/11, the first section of a national memorial will open on this site, posing to its visitors a simple question.
What would you do if you got on a plane tomorrow and you were faced with the same situation?
As Americans reflect on what may be the final phase in the war on al-Qaeda, there is still a place to remember the first skirmish in a long struggle. Jim Acosta, CNN, Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
From Pennsylvania to Ground Zero in New York, stand by to hear more from some Americans who lost loved ones, the heroes of the 9/11 attacks. And this is being billed as one of the most significant days yet in the war on terror. We're taking a closer look at al-Qaeda's threat to the world now that bin Laden is dead.
I'm Chef Michael, and my dog Bailey and I love to hang out in the kitchen. You love the aroma of beef tenderloin, don't you? You inspired a very special dog food.
Chef Michael's Canine Creations. Chef-inspired, dog-desired.
Buba. Tanta Ragna. Khan.
Doctors have been saying it forever.
Let's take a look.
But they've never actually been able to do it like this.
Let's take a look.
V-Scan from GE Healthcare, a pocket-sized imaging device that will help change the way doctors see patients. That's better health for more people.
Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
Do you believe in magic?
There's just something about Werther's caramel that makes a chocolate so smooth and creamy. You don't just taste it, you feel it. Magic. Werther's original caramel chocolate. What comfort tastes like.
Inspired engineering. Motivated by performance. Technicians as advanced as the vehicles they service. And now get all of this expertise at a price that may surprise you. Like our 30-day tire price match guarantee, plus a $60 mail-in rebate. Not just service, certified service. Only at your Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac dealer.
Who's Anderson keeping honest tonight?
We're not trying to twist anyone's word. We're simply trying to get some basic questions answered.
Keeping them honest every night. AC 360.
Let me tell you about a very important phone call I made. When I got my Medicare card, I realized I needed an AARP Medicare Supplement insurance card too.
Medicare is one of the great things about turning 65, but it doesn't cover everything. In fact, it only pays up to 80% of your Part B expenses. If you're already on or eligible for Medicare, call now to find out how an AARP Medicare Supplement insurance plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company, helps cover some of the medical expenses not paid by Medicare Part B. That can save you up to thousands of dollars. These are the only Medicare supplement insurance plans exclusively endorsed by AARP. When you call now, you'll get this free information kit and guide to understanding Medicare.
I can keep my own doctor and choose my own hospital.
And I don't need a referral to see a specialist.
As with all Medicare supplement plans, you can keep your own doctor and hospital that accepts Medicare and help pay for what Medicare doesn't. Call this toll-free number now to get your free information kit and guide to understanding Medicare.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta reports Saving Gabby Giffords, Sunday night at 7 Eastern.
The good news for the U.S. and for so much of the world, almost everyone, bin Laden is dead, but there is concern that some of his followers may plot revenge right now. CNN's Gene Meserve is working this part of the story for us. What are you finding out?
Well, Wolf, a U.S. official says an Osama bin Laden tape may surface. The official says it was made a long time ago and will contain what the official called standard propaganda. But could it raise the risk of a counterattack? Officials say at this point there is no specific intelligence that retaliatory strikes are in the works, but the intelligence and law enforcement communities are on heightened alert.
At the Pentagon Memorial to 9/11 victims, the parents of Chris Romeo Bishendat celebrated Osama bin Laden's death with champagne.
Sucker is gone.
But throughout government, the celebration is tempered by concerns at what al-Qaeda, its affiliates, or sympathizers might do next.
It may be a mortally wounded tiger that still has some life in it, and it's dangerous, and we need to keep up the pressure. We cannot relent because there are individuals in that organization that are determined to try to carry out attacks and murder innocent men, women, and children.
There is no specific credible information about a possible counterpunch, so the Department of Homeland Security has not raised the threat level. But security in some places was ramped up anyway. In New York, for instance, where bin Laden struck his deadliest blow.
There are no specific threats against New York City as of this moment, but we certainly are not taking any chances. Our assumption is that bin Laden's disciples would like nothing better than to avenge his death by another attack in New York.
And on the D.C. metro system.
This increase is not related to any specific threat to our system, rather than it is out of an abundance of caution.
But elsewhere, officials took a wait-and-see attitude, in Los Angeles, for instance.
And if the need arises, we will change our posture. But thus far, our posture remains the same.
Even in aviation, which al-Qaeda and its affiliates have attacked repeatedly, some passengers saw no signs of increased security.
There don't seem to be any problems. As a matter of fact, I don't even see any armed guards around.
Meanwhile, an intelligence community task force is sifting through what's called a robust collection of materials found at the compound where bin Laden was killed. Officials hope it will lead them to other members of al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda is something in the past, and we're hoping to bury the rest of al-Qaeda along with bin Laden.
The intelligence and law enforcement communities are strengthening their efforts to gather and analyze intelligence, hoping to detect any retaliatory attacks that may be put in motion. Though officials say they are not aware of any specific threats at this time, bin Laden's death was announced less than 24 hours ago, and no one thinks the coast is clear. Wolf?
They've got to be prudent at this point, given the history. Thanks very much, Gene. CNN is just now getting some new amateur video of bin Laden's compound in Pakistan. After the raid, we're going to show it to you. Stand by for that. Also, an elite U.S. assault team fighting its way through bin Laden's compound. Ahead, step by step, inside the dramatic raid that took his life.
When fire or water damage strikes, call the cleanup team. That's faster to any size disaster at 1-800-SERVPRO, like it never even happened.
To the seekers of things which are one of a kind, the authentic, the rare, the hard to define,
To those always searching for what's pure and what's real, from we who believe, we know just how you feel. Haagen-Dazs.
I use Go to My PC, so I'm free to work where I want, when I want. I just log in and can get to everything on my work computer from one simple website. Programs, files, emails, even the printers. It's like magic. I don't have to worry if I brought the right file home or emailed that document to myself, because whatever I need, I can always get to it. So I work how I want, without feeling guilty about leaving early to make my yoga class. I can just finish up my work at home later, which is great. The bottom line is, it's the easiest way to free myself from the office while still taking care of work.
Are you going? I got it!
Instantly access your work computer over the internet from any other computer. Now for iPad. Make what happens here, happen here. It's that easy. With Go to My PC, you can access your Mac or PC from anywhere. Try Go to My PC free for 30 days. Visit gotomypc.com and use the promo code TV.
After Bin Laden, Piers Morgan talks with Rudy Giuliani, Bob Woodward, and Carmen Bin Laden in a primetime exclusive. A special live Piers Morgan tonight, 9 Eastern.
Bring it with you. The fastest to more homes, now fast in more places. Xfinity Internet to go. Call 1-800-XFINITY.
Attention, all Medicare beneficiaries who need assistance getting around their home. Imagine one scooter or power chair that could improve your mobility and your life. One Medicare benefit that, with private insurance, may entitle you to pay little to nothing to own it. One company that can make it all happen.
Your power chair will be paid in full.
The Scooter Store.
Call the Scooter Store for free information today.
Call 1-800-368-6161 for free information. That number again is 1-800-368-6161.
A Larry King special, The Alzheimer's Epidemic. CNN Saturday night, 8 Eastern.
I just want to remind our viewers, we're standing by. We've got some new video just coming into the Situation Room of bin Laden's compound outside of Islamabad. We're going to show it to you. You're going to want to see this. Stand by for that. In the meantime, let's go to Jack. He's got the Cafferty file. Jack.
Question this hour is, in the wake of the death of Osama bin Laden, what should come next for the United States in the war on terror? Johnny writes from Los Angeles, our new war on terror should put the crosshairs of justice on the Mexican drug cartels. The Mexican cartels have collectively killed 15 times as many people as those who died on 9/11. This terror is right across our border and is infiltrating America on a daily basis. Michael in Virginia suggests finding the cash source for building bin Laden's mansion and rooting that out. When they don't have bribes to pay Pakistani internal security forces, they will quickly all be in custody or dead. Joyce in Wisconsin says, get the heck out of these other countries and take care of our own. Protect America and stop nation building. We look as bad as England did when they were trying to take over the world. Joe in New York writes, now's the time to let the other dictators know that we're not kidding around, and recommend that they step down now. John in California, retaliation by al-Qaeda or any Islamic radicals in the Middle East is very possible. The new and expected leader of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. That's the group that's helped destabilize parts of the Middle East and Egypt and Libya. I just have this gnawing pain in the pit of my stomach that something else more sinister is coming. Greg in Texas writes, find al-Zawahiri and send him to sleep with the fishes like his good buddy. Then begin withdrawals from Afghanistan and tell their government that their leaders will share the same fate if they support al-Qaeda or any attacks on the United States. Marty in Boston, I think we've already taken the next step by sending a clear message to another terrorist in particular, Muammar Gaddafi. That message to him is this: no, Muammar, those bombs in Tripoli were not meant for you. We were aiming at military assets. We don't target individuals. Oh, by the way, have you heard the latest on Osama bin Laden? Martha writes, we must remain ever vigilant on the war on terror, but we should also bring all our troops home from the Middle East because our mission there now is over. If you want to read more on this, we got a lot of email. Go to the blog, cnn.com/Cafferty file. Wolf.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, Jack, a lot of the viewers out there, my Twitter followers, they're saying, you know what, have the President of the United States declare victory, mission accomplished, bring the troops home from Afghanistan. It's 100,000 U.S. troops there, by the way, at a cost of about $2 billion a week, more than $100 billion a year. Bring the remaining 50,000 troops home from Iraq and move on. I suspect that would win a lot of support, but there are a lot of people resisting that, as you know.
Well, do you think that's going to happen? I don't.
No, I don't think it'll happen either.
No, I don't either.
But I'm just saying,
idea,
that's
but
what a
it
lot
ain't
of people
gonna
would like to see.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see it too, but it's not going to happen.
All right, Jack's going to come back shortly. Stand by. One of the worst days ever in this country showed us some of the greatest heroes America has to offer. We're going to hear from the families of the brave men and women who responded first to the attacks at Ground Zero. And I'll ask Pakistan's ambassador to the United States if his country gave bin Laden any aid or cover that allowed him to hide out so close to the Pakistani capital.
I can't get rid of these weeds or these nasal allergies.
I know what works differently than many other allergy medications. Omneris. Omneris. To the nose. Did you know nasal symptoms like congestion can be caused by allergic inflammation? Omneris relieves your symptoms by fighting inflammation. Side effects may include headache, nosebleed, and sore throat.
I nip my allergy symptoms in the bud.
Omneris. Ask your doctor. Battling nasal allergy symptoms? Omneris combats the cause. Get Omneris for only $11 at omneris.com.
The Motorola Zoom. Upgradable to 4G LTE and access to the fast-growing apps in Android market. It's everything the tablet should be. Starting at $5.99.
Now is when I, the devastatingly handsome doctor, tell you there's nothing else we can do.
Now is when I scream, no!
I'll say we tried everything, even 50 cc's of Raka-Laka moccasin.
And I'll just stand here, looking sexy. There's a twist. I'll come back to life.
And the music will tell us how to feel.
Introducing HBO Go, the new streaming service from HBO, free with your subscription.
We share. Shop from anywhere. And are always connected. We live in a social world. Isn't it time we had a social currency to match? Membership rewards points from American Express. Use them to get the things you love from Amazon.com, Ticketmaster.com, and more unexpected places. They're a social currency with endless possibilities.
Okay, guys, what sounds good for dinner tonight?
I don't know, something.
Mexican. Thinking Mexican tonight? Hamburger Helper has 5 festive flavors like crunchy taco. Hamburger Helper, 1 pound, 1 pan, 1 happy family.
I mean, really, where would we be without small businesses?
We need small businesses.
They're the ones that help drive growth.
Like electricians, mechanics, carpenters.
To strengthen our communities. Every year, Chevron spends billions with small businesses. That goes right to the heart of local communities, providing jobs, keeping people at work. They depend on us. The economy depends on them. And we depend on them.
Closed captioning brought to you by Shape Ups from Skechers.
Are you staging a comeback? Because it feels like you're staging a comeback.
I feel better than ever. Stronger in my legs, my core, my back.
Comeback!
Skechers Shape Ups. Get back in the game.
All right, this is the video we've been talking about, amateur video taken of the bin Laden compound by apparently a neighbor. Made the video available to us. You can see this compound there where bin Laden was hiding almost in plain sight there. A huge mansion, if you will, surrounded by Pakistani military installations. This is not some remote area, mountainous area. This is certainly no cave. This is a pretty luxurious place. We're told that the real estate value of that mansion in Pakistan around $1 million. We'll show you more of that. Let me show you some of the hot shots coming in, reactions from around the world to the death of Osama bin Laden. In El Salvador, a man at a newsstand holds up a front page newspaper headline. In Helmand province in Afghanistan, a U.S. Marine watches CNN's coverage of the announcement. In Washington, a man in an American flag bodysuit celebrates in front of the White House. And in New York City, firefighters joined the celebrations late last night in Times Square. Just some of the images coming in from around the world. For the families of the hundreds of firefighters who lost their lives on 9/11, today is a day many of them thought might never come. Mary Snow is joining us now live from Ground Zero with some of their stories. Mary?
And well, you know, you definitely get a sense of euphoria around Ground Zero, but also a sense of reflection with people placing flowers in the church gates behind me at St. Paul, some American flags. And for firefighters and families of firefighters, remembering the 343 firefighters who were killed on September 11th, this was definitely a day of mixed emotions. It was the day they'd been waiting for. Maureen and Al Santora came to this firehouse where their son Christopher worked. He was one of 15 firefighters from Engine 54 killed on September 11th. This Manhattan station suffering huge losses that day.
At the moment, I'm on a high because I feel my son's, joy and exhilaration that this very evil man was captured and killed by Americans. And I just feel his presence, that he's just right on, good for the soldiers. And I mean, I can hear him yelling and screaming, and he'd be dancing in the streets today, my son.
But that elation was mixed with deep emotion for her husband, Al, who was also a firefighter for 40 years.
We never can bring them back, but we can do everything we can to bring the people who are responsible to justice, and that's what happened today. It's a win for the United States of America. It's a win for everybody in the world, in the free world, and hopefully we'll have some more wins, and it makes it a little easier.
I'll have an added respect for my military brothers.
30-year-old Peter Regan is now a firefighter in Brooklyn, following the steps of his father, Donald, who was killed on 9/11. Regan is also a Marine who was deployed to Iraq twice. A lot of people are saying they didn't want to use the word closure.
No, I don't feel any closure. I mean, there's always, like I said, he's a big chapter. He's a big forefront. He's the main, the main target. But, I mean, there's someone behind him. For me, closure would be letting the guard down. So, and I'm not ready to do that.
But for a moment in Times Square Sunday night, some firefighters stopped to take in the news and were touched to watch hundreds of people celebrate word of bin Laden's death.
Last night, people came out of their hotel rooms, they came out of theaters, wherever they were, in restaurants. They showed up and they smiled and they kissed us and hugged us and took photos and they cheered us on. And it's not just about us, it's about the United States. They were cheering the United States, they were cheering the firefighters, they were cheering our troops. It's all good things.
And New York City's fire commissioner told us that his elation only lasted for a few moments, that he is very concerned about retaliation and told firefighters to be extremely cautious. Wolf?
Mary Snow in New York for us. Thank you. And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room happening now. Breaking news, gripping new details are emerging right now. The bold and risky operation that took out Osama bin Laden, the gun battle that raged from room to room, a woman used by bin Laden as a human shield. We go inside the deadly raid. Stand by. Also, the courier who inadvertently led the U.S. to bin Laden. We're getting new information right now about what officials are calling classic espionage and surveillance work. And one White House official says, and I'm quoting now, it's inconceivable that bin Laden didn't have some kind of support system inside Pakistan. So what did officials in that country really know? I'll ask the Pakistani ambassador to the United States. He's joining us live this hour. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. Breaking news, political headlines, Ginny Moss, all straight ahead. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Let's begin this hour with the breaking news. New information about the U.S. Special Forces raid that killed Osama bin Laden. We've learned now that the code name assigned to the world's most wanted terrorist in this operation, the code name that the U.S. used for bin Laden, was Geronimo. Also, a U.S. official tells CNN a recording from bin Laden may be released soon, a tape made before he was killed with the intention that his supporters would distribute it upon his death and presumably inspire them. We're also getting a first-hand look inside the White House where the terror leader, the decision was made to take him out. This ABC News video, by the way, shows a blood-stained room and evidence of the gun battle that took place inside that compound in Pakistan. New details of the operation continue to emerge. Our Pentagon correspondent Chris Lawrence is following all of this for us. All right, Chris, what's the very latest?
Well, Wolf, we have now learned that the National Security Team was able to see some real-time video of this assault taking place from the White House Situation Room. The assault involved 4 choppers, about 24 commandos, and they were in and out within 40 minutes. But that's because the special ops team practiced assaulting a mock compound several times, and they were told going in, don't expect these people to surrender. They will fight you hard. And true to that, Osama bin Laden died with a gun in his hand.
For years, everyone assumed Osama bin Laden would live out his days or die in the rugged mountains along the Afghan border. For all intents and purposes, he was killed in the suburbs, less than 40 miles from where the president of Pakistan lives. There are no rocky caves near bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, but there are golf courses in the Pakistan Military Academy. And his house was 8 times bigger than any home in the neighborhood.
Speaking about that from a visual perspective, here is bin Laden, who has been calling for these attacks, living in this $1 million-plus compound, living in an area that is far removed from the front.
The 3-story building was built about 6 years ago. A courier and his brother lived on the first floor of another building. Bin Laden's family occupied the top 2 floors of the main building. Unlike other neighbors who took their trash out, these people burned theirs inside the compound. And if 2 main gates weren't enough to discourage visitors, opaque windows shielded the inside. And there was an 18-foot wall surrounding the outer part of the compound. It stood out. And a U.S. intelligence official says, given how bad al-Qaeda's finances are, they would only spend this kind of money for one of their top 2 commanders. So in effect, bin Laden was the engineer of his own destruction. That end began with U.S. military helicopters swooping in, an assault team entering from multiple locations. A team of Navy SEALs fast roped down to the ground, searching for Geronimo, their code name for bin Laden.
And they're going room to room, very methodical, engaging targets and, completing the mission. But it's a really intense, personal, up close and personal type of operation.
High above, multiple American planes and unmanned drones were flying just outside Pakistani airspace, ready to fire if the team needed help. CIA Director Leon Panetta was quarterbacking the mission in constant secure radio contact with the assault team. And back at the White House, the president was anxiously monitoring events. Few officials even said a word.
The minutes passed like days, and the president was very concerned about the security of our personnel.
Back on the ground, the assault team was fighting its way through the main building. 2 women were wounded in the firefight, and there were children inside. At one point, one of the residents grabbed Osama bin Laden's wife against her will.
She fought back when there was the opportunity to get to bin Laden. She was positioned in a way that indicated that she was being used as a shield.
She was shot and died. The SEALs killed the 2 men defending bin Laden and his son. Even bin Laden himself shot back. But with a shot to the head, the SEALs took him out. While all this was going on, one of the U.S. helicopters had trouble. The team made the call to destroy it there on the ground and hustled the women and children out before detonating the aircraft.
And we're told there was an audible sigh in the Situation Room by the National Security Team when that team did make it out safely with bin Laden's body. And there was also sheer awe at what they had just been able to accomplish. Now, they didn't spend that entire 40 minutes fighting. Some of that time was spent collecting papers and material, what one intelligence official calls a robust amount of information and intelligence that they now hope to exploit to go after other members of al-Qaeda. Wolf?
I hope it helps them find the number 2 leader of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. He remains at large. Good report, Chris. Thank you. Bin Laden's death is certainly a crippling blow to the terror network, but not necessarily a fatal one, and there are possible successors certainly waiting in the wings. CNN's Brian Todd is working this part of the story for us. What are you finding out, Brian?
Well, we're learning more detail about some of the top figures in al-Qaeda who are still out there, still dangerous and operationally very capable, but they've now got the task of marshaling a network that's been dealt a body blow. With al-Qaeda decapitated, experts believe this is now a terror network in crisis. What kind of a hole is al-Qaeda in right now as far as leadership is concerned?
Well, I think they've been in a hole for some time. They've suffered a lot of operational setbacks because of things like predator strikes. Their operational leadership is decimated. Now their ideological leadership and the spokesman is gone.
Philip Mudd, former CIA officer and counter-terror official, says Osama bin Laden is irreplaceable. Mudd and other experts say with so many jihadists having looked to bin Laden for operational direction, for inspirational command, filling his void will be a disjointed, messy undertaking. There are at least two obvious replacements. Ayman al-Zawahiri, bin Laden's longtime deputy, a legendary al-Qaeda leader who's also been on the run since September 11th. And Anwar al-Awlaki, the American-born cleric who's a key leader in one of the network's most dangerous branches, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Experts say both are capable, but they also have drawbacks that bin Laden didn't have. Al-Zawahiri has the strategic background to lead the network, but analysts say he lacks bin Laden's charisma, and
he's viewed as a very polarizing figure, someone who's not easy to deal with, not a good manager.
Al-Awlaki is seen as a master recruiter, an internet sensation who inspired the Christmas Day airline plot and the attempted cargo bombing last year. His Achilles heel?
Anwar al-Awlaki is not a fighter. He's a cleric, he's a speaker, and not a fighter. And al-Qaeda, over the years, have wanted to be led by a fighter.
Credentials bin Laden had from his years battling the Soviets in Afghanistan. But other dangerous figures could surface, including Saif al-Adil, who one analyst calls al-Qaeda's chief of staff, believed to have played a key role in the 1998 African embassy bombings. Abu Yahya al-Libi, once a battlefield commander in Afghanistan, who rose to prominence for escaping from Bagram Air Base. And Ilyas Kashmiri, a well-connected bin Laden favorite, mastermind of a serious plot last year to target Europe. Analysts say none of them have star power, the brand name of bin Laden, and it's not effective to have several people trying to fill his shoes. But they say if no leader steps to the fore immediately, it does not mean that al-Qaeda is less dangerous, at least not in the short term. They say look for the threats to spike as the network seeks to avenge bin Laden. As one U.S. official says, Wolf, this is a wounded tiger with some life still left in it.
And I suspect none of them will have the ability to raise the funds, the money that bin Laden could.
He had those wealthy Saudi contacts. He had family money coming in. That's not really replaceable. They say some of the money is going to go to al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula because they have a proven track record of being effective at launching plots. But some of those other al-Qaeda affiliates, they may dry up a little bit now that bin Laden's gone.
He's gone, but al-Qaeda remains.
Right.
Bottom line. Thanks very much. President Obama says, as commander-in-chief, he couldn't be prouder of the operation that took place to take out bin Laden. He spoke about it at a previously scheduled Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House earlier today.
I think we can all agree this is a good day for America. Our country has kept its commitment to see that justice is done. The world is safer. It is a better place because of the death of Osama bin Laden.
All right, let's get some more now with our CNN national security analyst, Peter Bergen. His newest book is entitled The Longest War. He's also part of a Time magazine cover story just out on the death of bin Laden. Today also joining us, our national security contributor, Fran Townsend. She's a member of the external advisory boards for the Homeland Security Department, as well as the CIA. Peter, you've written, I think, the definitive book on bin Laden and on the war on terrorism. No one should think the war on terrorism is over.
Yeah, but history just speeded up for al-Qaeda. I mean, yes, look, the war on terror will never be over in the sense there will always be people who are attracted to this ideology. But if you were to come up with two giant nails in the coffin, you couldn't come up with something better than the Arab Spring, in which bin Laden has had absolutely no role to play, and bin Laden's death. I mean, if we sat down and thought about it for a long time, Fran, we couldn't come up with anything better than those two things.
You heard Chris Lawrence, our Pentagon reporter, say before they left, during the 40 minutes that the U.S. intelligence, special operations forces were in that compound, they went and collected a whole bunch of information, documents, who knows if they had computer disks or whatever they had. These are critical hours and days right now. If there's, quote, actionable intelligence on that information, they've got to work that right now.
I think it is fair to say, Wolf, there was much more there than was anticipated. There's a trove. It's not just, there were computers, although they weren't hooked to the internet. There were documents, there were DVDs. This is a multimedia exercise. They put a task force together to go through it. First and foremost, the first order of business is to identify any ongoing threats, especially to the United States or to our interests around the world. Second, the second order of business will be to look for other high-value targets like Zawahiri.
The number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri, Bin Laden was a relatively cautious guy. You've studied him for a few decades now. Do you think he would have left actionable information in that compound that U.S. special operators could go in there and collect?
Fran and I just had a briefing from a U.S. counterterrorism official in a position to know, and he used the word boatload of intelligence that they picked up, DVDs, CD-ROMs, a lot of stuff, much more stuff than they anticipated, knowing that bin Laden was avoiding electronic communication because of concerns about being tracked. Yes, this guy is a paranoid and secretive guy, but don't forget, it's been 10 years now. He's a long time to accumulate a lot of stuff, and he's somebody who's very interested in what's going on in the world, and, you know, he probably, over time, you accumulate a lot of stuff. There are other people in there. Clearly, as Fran said, the main priority is trying to make sure that there aren't other plots that are, you know, that you can sort of suss out from what's there. But, yeah, I think this is unexpected.
Were you surprised that he was in a compound, in a mansion, only a 2-hour drive from Islamabad, as opposed to a cave in some of that mountainous area, that tribal area in the northwest part of Pakistan?
Well, Wolf, as you know, we believed for a long time he was in that mountainous tribal area and moving around. It actually makes perfect sense that bin Laden would have made the deliberate decision. We know that the building of this mansion started 5 years ago. And what did bin Laden know? He knew at that time, 5 years ago, that there was an increasing use by the U.S. government of these Predator drones, mostly used in rural areas. Very hard to use them in urban built-up areas like he was in because you worry about collateral damage. Second, the other thing he would have known, Wolf, was the fact that there was a real dispute, including going back to the Bush administration. The Pakistani government did not want the U.S. government to put military boots on the ground inside Pakistan, and this public rift between the two governments was quite public. And so if you're bin Laden, you know now from those 2 points of data, to avoid the drones, you want to get into an urban area, and you want to get away from where we have our troops stationed in Afghanistan. And so he was, he was several hours away from the Afghan border.
Do you have any sense if we're going to spend the next 10 years looking for the number two, now the number one al-Qaeda leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri?
Actually, I doubt it, Wolf, and I'd be interested to see what Fran thinks. I mean, Ayman al-Zawahiri historically has taken many more risks than bin Laden. We've already had 5 audio tapes from him discussing the recent events in the Middle East. Every time you release one of these tapes, you open yourself to the possibility a courier can be picked up, some kind of electronic trace if you put it up on a jihadi website. So Ayman al-Zawahiri, in fact, in 2006, the U.S. almost killed Ayman al-Zawahiri in a drone attack in an area called Damadola in northwest Pakistan. So I don't think it will be as long as Ayman al-Zawahiri, and also it's less significant. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Ayman al-Zawahiri was being killed. Yeah. It would be significant, but not sort of seismic.
That's right. And unlike bin Laden, where there was a long period of no intelligence or no sightings of him, Zawahiri has been sighted. There has been intelligence. There have been targeting opportunities. He's come close several times. So I expect this is not nearly as difficult.
Yeah, I bet not only Ayman al-Zawahiri, but a lot of other bad guys out there are very, very nervous based on what the U.S. has done.
That's a good thing, Wolf.
I think you make a good point. Thank you. We're also learning new information about the long trail that ultimately led to bin Laden and how one trusted courier was the key to finding him. And serious new questions about what Pakistan knew about bin Laden's presence inside Pakistan. I'll put some of those questions to the country's ambassador to the United States. He's standing by to join us live here in the Situation Room. Banner reading deceased. The FBI website still shows a $27 million reward for information leading to bin Laden, $25 million from the U.S. government, $2 million from the Airline Pilots Association and the Air Transport Association. There's no word whether any of that bounty will actually be paid out. Let's go to Jack Cafferty. He's got the Cafferty file. Amazing, Jack. Amazing developments.
The terror attacks of September 11th were unlike anything most Americans had ever seen before. 3,000 innocent people murdered in cold blood on our own soil. It was an event that saddened and terrified the entire country. But it also unified us in a way that we hadn't been maybe since the end of the Second World War. Sadly, that unity was short-lived. We've been a pretty divided nation since soon after 9/11. The partisan politics that have taken over Washington over the past few years have made things increasingly ugly in this country. But last night, with the news that Osama bin Laden had been killed, Americans were once again united. They converged on the streets of Lower Manhattan near Ground Zero and outside the White House in Washington. They were singing and dancing and waving American flags. There was a sense of victory, but a sense of remembrance, too. We haven't seen this sort of patriotism and sense of victory and justice in a long time. The United States hasn't had much success in the wars that we've gotten involved in since World War II. That was the last one we won outright. It's been pointed out that both Osama bin Laden and Adolf Hitler were declared dead on the same day, May the 1st, more than 65 years apart. Bin Laden yesterday, courtesy of the U.S. Special Forces. Hitler turned a gun on himself when he realized his dreams of world domination for Germany were a lost cause. In the end, he was just another little coward. Here's the question. Historically, what does the killing of Osama bin Laden compare to in your memory? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty File and post a comment on my blog. Momentous event.
Yep, good question, Jack. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's bring in our senior political analyst, Gloria Borger. She's learning some new details about the intelligence that led to bin Laden. What are your sources telling you right now, Gloria?
Well, Wolf, this is such a complex and circuitous story, which begins many years ago when intelligence officials started interviewing those high-value detainees like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And they had names of couriers, and they'd throw them out, and they would get some answers or try and get the names of couriers out. And there was one name where they were only given the nickname, the nom de guerre. And I think it's fair to assume that the people clammed up. It's fair to assume that one of the detainees who may have clammed up was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed himself, because this courier turns out to be his protege and turns out to be the courier they tracked down, took them many years, that led them eventually to the compound. So there's the connection with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. It was a long trail, Wolf. It went cold for a couple of years. They finally figured out his name in another part of the world, then actually had a sighting of him, but they couldn't trail him openly, and eventually led to the compound, which they found very suspicious, as you know, which eventually led them to Osama bin Laden's nest on the 3rd floor.
And they didn't even know for sure that it was bin Laden who was hiding out in there.
Did not.
They didn't want to just send a missile in there because they wanted that body to confirm once and for all that they had killed bin Laden.
In talking to sources about this, I was told that the CIA believed that the probability of finding bin Laden there was 60 to 80%. I was told by a senior administration official there was no guarantee by any stretch. But still, the president and I believe that the CIA director, Leon Panetta, agreed that it would be best to go in with a helicopter rather than bomb the place because, of course, if you were going to get bin Laden, you wanted a body. You wanted proof. You wanted to know that you had actually killed him, and that's why they decided to do it this way.
If they would have just sent a missile, a Hellfire missile or a Tomahawk cruise missile, you might never have known that bin Laden was dead.
Right, and this way they have DNA, they have family match, and they know who it is.
That's that. Gloria,
Right.
thank you. Bin Laden, as we say, was hiding in plain sight in a Pakistani city that had a big military presence, even its own version of West Point. So does Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, have a lot to answer for about bin Laden? Stick around. You're in the Situation Room. The killing of Osama bin Laden by U.S. Special Forces is certainly a defining moment for President Obama, also for a country scarred by the horrors of 9/11. Our chief political correspondent, Kenny Crowley, is here with more on this part of the story. It's one of those moments that all of us, Candy, will always remember.
It is. It's one of those times where, you know, I was laying in bed and all of a sudden saw you and, you know, something was coming. And I probably, like you, thought it's got to be Osama bin Laden because you don't wake a country up at 11:30 at night to talk about what has already happened in Libya. So quite a moment. I want you to take a look. I'll tell you about that at a Time magazine cover from 66 years ago this week, marking the death of Adolf Hitler. Now, here's the cover of this week's special edition of Time coming out Thursday. It is pictorial proof that this is exactly what we think it is, a very big deal, a moment to remember. 10 years and more than 7,000 miles from New York City, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, U.S. Navy SEALs raided a mansion complex in Abbottabad, Pakistan, delivering the moment.
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
It was breathtaking and the moment of Barack Obama's presidency so far. Criticized as naive and timid in foreign policy, President Obama was steely in the crunch, approving a risky U.S.-only mission inside a sovereign country. Imagine if it had all gone wrong. Instead, we are told it all went right.
A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties.
This will help him politically because it helps Americans psychologically. Their moment is his and vice versa. Jim DeLowry lost a brother-in-law and cousin on 9/11.
It helps. It helps, but it's not going to bring them back, but it helps.
Bob Lynch just got back from duty in Afghanistan.
I was awestruck. I was relieved. This portion that started so long ago is over.
It was as though 10 years of grief, anger, and frustration were given some relief, a moment that produced a rock concert atmosphere near Ground Zero in New York City, Pennsylvania, and outside the White House gates. However heinous the person, there is something dystonic, uncomfortable about celebrating a death. It was a mixed moment for the mother of a fallen fireman.
It's good to see an evil person receive justice, but it's very bitter to realize that so many good people met a brutal and needless death at the hands of this monster.
Osama bin Laden brought us to a place where we are told to report suspicious activities at airports, train stations, even malls. He sparked the global battle against the unknown and the unthinkable in a struggle with no boundaries. And for a decade, the U.S. has lived with two wars that defy the standard definition of victory. So perhaps this is a celebration of clarity in a world where there is little. Our guys killed a bad guy. Winston Churchill once said of a key battle victory, "Now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Whatever it is or will become, this is a moment to take notice." And also quite a moment for the CIA and the armed services. I spoke with one top Pentagon official today who told me what satisfies him the most is that in Osama bin Laden's final moment, the last thing he saw was the face of the U.S. military.
What political implications, fallout do you expect from this, Candy?
Listen, I think that you will see President Obama get a huge boost. I mean, you know, presidents take the rap for things that go wrong. They get credit for things that go well. This went really well. He's going to get a lot of credit. What's going to do a year and a half from now? It depends on what the moments are between now and then. You know that. We've seen so many presidents we thought a year and a half, ooh, they are a shoo-in, or boy, this really, they'll never get reelected, and then they are, because there's a lot of moments in a presidency.
Remember George Herbert Walker Bush back in 91, 92, after the first Gulf War, his approval numbers were terrific, and then we know what happened in 92.
And then he lost. I remember Ronald Reagan and the bombing of the troops in Lebanon, and I thought, well, that's it. That's over. He'll never win re-election. Of course he did.
He did, of course. All right, Kenny, thanks very much. All right, we're just getting some new details about the U.S. raid that killed bin Laden. Let's go straight to our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry. What are you hearing, Ed?
Well, Wolf, one senior administration official now telling us that Osama bin Laden was shot twice, that he was actually shot in the chest first and then in the head. We had previously only learned that he had been shot in the head. He was also shot in the chest. Also some new information from this senior administration official that, in fact, Osama bin Laden's wife was not killed and not used as a human shield. That was some of the initial information that was being reported on yesterday. Now this official saying that because of the fog of war, because of varying accounts, instead, this was another woman, not Osama bin Laden's wife, who was caught in the crossfire. It's unclear now whether or not she really was used as a human shield. Meanwhile, Osama bin Laden's wife was wounded, we believe hit in the calf, according to the senior official, but not killed, and is still now in Pakistan, was not taken away by U.S. officials. Another important detail coming in from a second senior administration official is that when President Obama and some of his top aides were here, that dramatic scene we've been talking about in the White House Situation Room yesterday afternoon and evening as they were watching these events in Pakistan unfold in that secure area of the White House Situation Room, we're told now the president and his aides heard someone on the ground in Pakistan say this phrase, Geronimo, E-K-I-A, as in Geronimo, enemy killed in action. Why that's significant is we're now learning that Geronimo is the code name that the U.S. officials were privately using for either capturing or killing Osama bin Laden. That was not the code name for bin Laden himself, but the code for actually capturing or killing him. So what the President of the United States heard in a situation where it was someone in Pakistan saying Geronimo, E-K-I-A, as in enemy killed in action. Finally, after the firefight that we've heard about, we're now hearing from the senior administration official that the president and a lot of top aides sat around a big conference table in the White House Situation Room. We've gotten some pictures today of that scene. And after they went through the facial recognition, after they went through Osama bin Laden's wife saying on the ground that that was, in fact, Osama bin Laden, there was a big debate going on, we're told, among these officials as to whether or not they should now announce to the world, start briefing congressional leaders and others that, in fact, Osama bin Laden was killed. And we're told as this debate was going on, the President of the United States finally interjected and said simply, "We got him." That he made the decision as commander-in-chief after hearing all this debate, hearing the information that was coming in, that this, in fact, was Osama bin Laden. That sent everything in motion. This scene played out last night before the world learned it, Wolf.
And two other points I'm picking up from authoritative U.S. sources saying to me, and I assume you've got this as well, bin Laden did not actually personally fire back. Did you hear the same thing?
That's right. And in fact, I'm now hearing from a senior administration official that they do not believe that Osama bin Laden reached for a weapon. There was some suggestion in early reports that maybe he was, and maybe that's why he got shot. But we're told that now that he did not have a weapon, he didn't fire anything. Also, we're learning that on late on Thursday night, as we go through the timeline now, a little bit more detail, there was this big briefing here privately at the White House. The president went through all the options with the commander about what could be done, what could not be done, and he wanted to sleep on it, basically. Friday morning, we've already known that the president gave the authorization to move forward with this mission. The new piece of information we're getting is that as all this was going around the table and they were trying to figure all this out on Friday morning, the president, after waking up, came down and basically said to his staff, "It's a go." And they went through the options again, and he interrupted and said, "It's a go." He had made up his mind Thursday night into Friday morning. When they were waiting for him in the diplomatic room, he told them it's a go, and that's what set everything in motion, Wolf.
The other point that I was told is, contrary to some of the earlier reports, information we were getting from U.S. officials, the Navy SEALs did not come down from those helicopters on what's called that fast rope. They lower a rope, then they climb down. Apparently the helicopters just landed. Did you pick up that at your briefing as well?
I have not heard that specific piece of information yet, but what I do have that sort of fits into that, and the reason why, so our viewers understand why we're piecing through this bit by bit, is that one senior administration official told me basically that because of the fog of war, there is some confusion about some of those specific details. And what's going on right now is each one of these special forces are being interviewed by authorities to get their own accounts. Each person in this firefight, as we're describing it, saw different things from different sides of the room, from outside the compound, inside the compound. Interesting final note is that this senior administration official was telling me that they believe Osama bin Laden was actually in this compound for at least 3 years, maybe even longer. We know that this compound in Pakistan was completed in 2005. This official saying they now believe inside the administration that the compound was built for bin Laden, so he could have been there as far back as 2005. So all this suggestion out there, maybe he was hiding in a cave, whatever. No, he may have been in this compound now for several years, Wolf.
Yep. All right. Well, excellent reporting. Thanks very much for all that information, the latest information from our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry. So how could bin Laden have been living in that mansion without Pakistani officials knowing about it? I'll ask the country's ambassador to the United States. He's here standing by live in the Situation Room.
From celebration to skepticism.
You cut off the head of the snake, you know, the rest, falls. So it just means, this is finally over.
We're elated that someone who's the biggest symbol of terrorism is finally gone now, and I can't wait to actually see his picture, to be honest with you, because we've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
At one point, police were called to this hookah bar, Fusion Ultra Lounge, after someone hurled raw eggs at people sitting on the patio, including Mohammed El-Khatib, the Muslim owner who served in the U.S. military.
Sitting down enjoying a hookah, and all of a sudden, we got eggs flying from the sky on us.
Leaders here at the mosque say, in part because of their association with Adam Gaddan, over the years they have been subjected to numerous threats, and they want people to know that they are celebrating the death of Osama bin Laden, just like other Americans. Ted Rollins, CNN, Garden Grove, California.
A top White House official says it's, quote, inconceivable that bin Laden didn't have some kind of support system in Pakistan. So what did officials in Pakistan know? I'll ask the Pakistani ambassador to the United States. Stay with us.
Edmunds.com says that Lexus holds its value better than any other luxury brand. IntelliChoice proclaims that Lexus has the best overall value of any brand. And J.D. Power & Associates ranks Lexus the highest in customer satisfaction. No wonder more people have chosen Lexus over any other luxury brand 11 years in a row. See you a Lexus dealer.
The Motorola Xoom. Upgradable to 4G LTE and access to the fast-growing apps in Android market. It's everything the tablet should be, starting at $599.
Everything you need to stay in control on long trips. Residence Inn.
At Liberty Mutual, we know how much you count on your car and how much the people in your life count on you. That's why we offer accident forgiveness, where your price won't increase due to your first accident. We also offer a hassle-free lifetime repair guarantee, where the repairs made on your car are guaranteed for life or they're on us. These are just two of the valuable features you can expect from Liberty Mutual. Plus, when you insure both your home and car with us, it could save you time and money. At Liberty Mutual, we help you move on with your life. So get the insurance responsible drivers like you deserve.
Looks really good.
Call us at 888-615-3122 or visit your local Liberty Mutual office, where an agent can help you find the policy that's right for you. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Responsibility. What's your policy?
After bin Laden, Piers Morgan talks with Rudy Giuliani, Bob Woodward, and Carmen bin Laden in a primetime exclusive. A special live Piers Morgan tonight, 9 Eastern.
Before Allegra, my allergy medicine made me drowsy. After Allegra, I'm up and alert.
Before Allegra, I had to wait for my medicine to kick in. After Allegra, I'm good to go.
Only Allegra combines fast, non-drowsy, 24-hour relief with the power to relieve your toughest symptoms. Proven effective even at 8 times high pollen levels.
Before Allegra, I had to make a choice, fast or non-drowsy. After Allegra, I have all the relief I need. After Allegra, I have it all.
How's that project coming?
The average kid spends 9 hours a day with media.
You've been hard at it all night. You need a break? You let me know if you need anything.
Which begs the question, who's he really listening to? The world has changed. Parenting hasn't.
A Larry King special, The Alzheimer's Epidemic. CNN Saturday night, 8 Eastern.
Let's get right back to Jack for the Cafferty File. Jack.
The question this hour is, historically, what does the killing of Osama bin Laden compare to? Kevin in Virginia writes, the fall of the Berlin Wall, as that was the beginning of the end of communism. Bin Laden's death's the beginning of the end of Islamic fundamentalism. Joe in Minnesota writes, it's like the end of the Korean War. It feels good at the moment, but at the end, we're right back where we started. Cliff in New York, if you first eliminate head of government despots like Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Papa Doc Duvalier, Nikolai Ceausescu, and Slobodan Milosevic, then Timothy McVeigh comes to mind. Terry in California writes, the end of the Cold War. Although bin Laden's death ends his personal reign of terror and is a huge accomplishment, we will forever have enemies who wish us harm. I'm curious to see how Donald Trump will try to spin this to make it his own personal victory. Tom in Louisiana writes, I think Osama bin Laden's death best compares to the death of Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar. Both were high-profile criminal figures with a flock of followers, and both managed to elude authorities for years. Both faced grisly deaths at the end of gun barrels by the military. Then was the war on drugs versus the war on terror symbolism, and that draws a further parallel. Jim writes, I think the excitement over the killing of bin Laden will have a very short shelf life. His presence or absence on the planet has had little impact on the daily lives of most of us compared to the serious economic problems the great majority of Americans face and have to deal with. Zoe writes, there's nothing for me to compare it to. I was a kid during 9/11. It's the victorious, wonderful end to something that's been a part of my life for the majority of the time I've been alive. And Susan in Idaho writes this is a coup that is incomparable. Bin Laden was being hidden by those that knew what he had done. At the end of World War II, the Germans would have served Hitler up on a silver platter. It's a well-known fact that skill and daring will overcome ignorance and superstition. I've never known a Navy SEAL, but I am smitten. All right, Susan. If you want to read more on this, go to the blog, cnn.com/Cafferty File.
Thank you, Jack. See you tomorrow when we come back. The Pakistani ambassador to the United States, Hussein Haqqani, has got lots to talk about. Stand by.
You know Mom. We know diamonds. Together, we'll make this Mother's Day one she'll never forget. That's why only Zales is the diamond store.
Thousands of foreclosed homes are up for bid now. Visit RealtyBid.com for unbelievable home discounts. These distressed properties must be sold. Go to RealtyBid.com now. Only a few days remain to bid. RealtyBid.com, where America shops for foreclosures.
I use Go to My PC, so I'm free to work where I want, when I want. I just log in and can get to everything on my work computer from one simple website. Programs, files, emails, even the printers. It's like magic. I don't have to worry if I brought the right file home or emailed that document to myself, because whatever I need, I can always get to it. So I work how I want, without feeling guilty about leaving early to make my yoga class. I can just finish up my work at home later, which is great. The bottom line is, it's the easiest way to free myself from the office while still taking care of work.
Are you
Instantly access your work computer over the internet from any other computer.
Well, I think it's just a wonderful thing to have had happen. We've all been waiting on some justice to be done.
I think it's a victory for us, a victory for peace, and a victory for justice.
It is finally retribution brought for all the victims' families from 9/11, both here in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, across the United States, and in New York.
Yeah, I think it's a great day for America. I think it's a time to celebrate and rejoice that he's gone.
Americans outside Arlington National Cemetery over at the 9/11 Memorial outside the Pentagon reacting to the death of Osama bin Laden. Now, I want to show you that picture that the White House released, a still photo. This is from the White House Situation Room yesterday when this mission was underway. 40 minutes on the ground, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, I should say, forces were there. They were watching. You see the vice president next to the president over there, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton with her hand over her mouth next to Dennis McDonough in the back, Bill Daley, Tom Donilon. But all of these officials there, they're looking at a video screen and they're watching this operation, video coming in of the operation. You can see the anxiety, the nervousness there. There were moments when that helicopter was disabled that they feared the worst. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the Pakistani ambassador to the United States. Of Osama bin Laden killed by U.S. forces in a raid on a mansion just a few dozen miles north of the Pakistani capital. It's raising lots of questions about the terror leader's presence in Pakistan, what officials there knew. Let's talk about it with Hussein Haqqani. He's the Pakistani ambassador to the United States. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for coming in. John Brennan, the president's counterterrorism advisor, says it's inconceivable that bin Laden didn't have some sort of support system in Pakistan. What happened here?
Well, obviously, bin Laden did have a support system. The issue is, was that support system within the government and the state of Pakistan or within the society of Pakistan? We all know that there are people in Pakistan who share the same belief system as bin Laden and other extremists. People like myself have been fighting them. Benazir Bhutto was a victim to them. So that is a fact that there are people who probably protected him. We will do a full inquiry into finding out why our intelligence services were not able to track him earlier.
Because this compound was a huge compound, bigger than all the other houses in the area, with a big wall around it. Didn't anyone from the ISI, the Pakistani Intelligence Service, or the military, the police, go in there and see what was going on?
Well, if you can't do that in Pakistan, where there are many houses which are larger than others, and unless and until you have due cause or reason, you can't enter them. If there had been intelligence, that would have happened. If you remember, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was found in a similar house in the city of Rawalpindi a few years ago, and the Pakistani government was responsible for arresting him at that time. What I find incredulous is the notion that somehow, just because there is a private support network in Pakistan, the state, the government, and the military of Pakistan should be blamed.
Because we have high respect for the military, the intelligence service. You can disagree with them, but they're very good. Listen to this interview I did on April 12th, 2010, about a year or so ago, with your Prime Minister, Prime Minister Gilani. Here's some excerpts. Are you any closer right now, do you believe, to finding, to capturing or killing Osama bin Laden or his number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri?
In fact, Osama bin Laden is not in Pakistan.
How do you know for sure he's not in Pakistan?
Because our military actions are very successful, and we have a very successful operation in Malakand and Swat, and now in South Waziristan and elsewhere. If there would have been any chance, he would have been arrested, or maybe I even don't know whether he's alive or not.
It sounds to me like Prime Minister Gilani was in total denial of what was going on.
Look, Wolf, we have to, as a nation, in Pakistan, re-evaluate our view of this whole problem. After 9/11, there were people in Pakistan who said we shouldn't side with the United States because the United States is about to crumble like the Soviet Union did, and we should actually support the Taliban. You remember that. That changed. Pakistan has to come to terms with the fact, and we will.
But Mr. Ambassador,
yes.
He was within a 2 hours drive of Islamabad.
Wolf, that is not the point. The point is that he has been eliminated in a successful operation by the United States, and Pakistan has expressed satisfaction at the conclusion of this operation.
Let me ask you this.
And any questions about intelligence failures will